Let's see. All righty. Welcome back. We are here at the Adventurous Guide to the Galaxy. We are here with my super duper awesome longtime friend, Daryl Guberman. We have been bringing it to you since day one. And we are here to talk about something very interesting today, as with the Wuhan lab. And all we know, everybody's figured out that where we've been telling you for years that, they were all in on it the whole time. So without more than that, I will let Mr. Daryl Guberman do his introduction. And he will blow your socks off today. So welcome here to the Adventures Guide to the Galaxy on YouTube and Odyssey.
Thank
Welcome
you,
into
Brian. Thank you very much. For those people who don't know me, my name is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. We've been open as of August 2023. We've been open for 12 years. We have a special guest here, business owners, my fellow citizens, Brighton. We have Mr. Charles Lieber. He's a chemistry professor or former chemistry professor, head of the department at Harvard University. Well, Harvard gets about, last time I saw, they get about $10 million, and they are investigating Harvard and Yale. As a matter of fact, we just put out a video about Yale this evening concerning $6.5 billion that China has invested in Ivy League schools and other universities throughout the United States. But Charles Lieber is a specialist in nanotechnology, both biological and electronic. And for those people who don't know, this is Charles Lieber's talent plan contract from China. What the Chinese do is they will go around to universities and other educational institutions and get the creme de la creme of those institutions and pay them big bucks to assist China in their ultimate goal of world domination. So we're going to continue. The Department of Energy, who sits on the American National Standards Institute, you'll see why I bring them forward, broke the news about the Wuhan lab, Brighton, exposing or releasing the COVID-19 virus. Now, the Wuhan lab back in 2017-18 was warned by national or international regulators that they shouldn't deal in the coronavirus arena because I guess their protocols were very bad. And we're going to bring out a woman here and she's a vice president of laboratory accreditation for the American National Standards Institute and ANAP. And ANSI, by the way, Brighton, in 2018, took over complete control over the American National Crediting Board. So here's Pamela Sale. Pamela Sale said under deposition, now she basically confesses, Brighton, and I hope you ask me a question or two before we even continue, is that she confessed to the factor that in laboratory, laboratory function, that there are no protocols. You pick this one, you pick one thing. An example of this would be simple. Let's say you have a test tube for a test on, let's say, a blood test.
Yeah.
But in another laboratory, they use a graduated cylinder. Though that sounds very simple, it's not consistent. And the thing about quality, since I've got 40 years in it, is about consistency. And there's no consistency. And she states, and I quote, one of the issues is that and I'm going to just add a factor of the bio-level 4 laboratories.
Of course.
Is not just, what was that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're saying.
This is not just the laboratory in China, but this is laboratories throughout the world that are being accredited by the American National Crediting Board and the American National Standards Institute and those organizations that sit on ANSI's board for a laboratory like A2LA. One of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic labs, bio-level 4 labs, and phlebotomy labs around the country and world have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not, which means in quality, the whole thing about ISO certification in general, International Standards Organization certification, is that it's supposed to bring consistency to the system. Well, we've seen many times there's inconsistencies in Wuhan. That's why the virus was released there, We see inconsistency in aerospace with Boeing sitting on the American National Standards Institute board right over by the FAA, who seceded inspection to them in 2009. And Boeing got caught fudging documentation on aircraft that we all fly in. Isn't that a tender moment?
And that's a lot of people don't know that a lot of things that are happening in America, like, oh, this is messed up or that's messed up. A lot of these people sit on these boards and say, hey, because Daryl runs a company, he can certify quality for American businesses, but they don't want him to do it because he'll actually do it. They just want to be in the group like, oh, don't worry, we got this.
Well,
Train crash, this
what
crash,
they,
that crash, this. Even when you're talking about laboratories, I guess it was in Connecticut or Massachusetts, there was a truck that got into an accident, and there was a bunch of lab monkeys that escaped. And I guess like they didn't have them secured; they just had them on the back of this truck or in something. And like one of them got out, and the lady, she thought it was a cat or something, tried to pet it. She got bit by this monkey, and these monkeys were used for the experiments that they didn't want you to talk about
was that?
COVID or up the
Did you
monkey.
say? Did you say
Huh?
Connecticut?
Yeah, somewhere in
Oh wait,
Massachusetts.
you know what that was? I think that was Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Chris Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal. I think they were partying back in a van. They
Yeah,
looked
and they
like
had like little shock collars on. They got out and they started
monkeys.
biting people. And then the lady said, "I don't feel very good." I'm like, "Yeah, I wouldn't either if I was hanging out with any of them. They might."
Well, we look at this. We look at we look at ANSI and ANAP. Okay, we look at them and they're like the Dalai Lamas of accreditation, certification, voluntary consensus standards, and all
Yes.
the rest of this. But the worst thing is you have Pfizer and Johnson that sit on ANSI's board right over by the FDA, USDA, NIH, CDC. And the worst thing is here's actual articles, Bright. Pfizer skipped quality processes and standards to push the COVID vaccine, and they had over 15 million vials
Oh,
returned.
shocking.
Okay. Not only that, you have J&J batch of COVID vaccine failed quality checks. Not clear how many doses. Well, they found out that J&J, one and done. Um, 60 million vials, and I will gladly ship it to anybody who wants to see these articles. I have a ton of them concerning the quality improprieties under the guise of ANSI, ANAB, the American National Standards
And you
Institute.
know what's crazy is that so when you're doing stuff on YouTube, YouTube has like the whole algorithm and like all the people, the new guys coming in and out, they have this thing where they'll make you say, hey, the vaccine is fantastic, it's safe and effective, and everybody loves it and it's great. And as long as you put that in, you can say whatever else you want. And so now a lot of people will joke about that, but then they're like sitting there. It's like, when is this joke gonna end? Like these people are not stopping. You know what I mean? A lot of people are out there. They're not really. They don't. They're super nice. Like a lot of people, if they have anything nice about them, which a lot of people are just whatever, they will allow people to get over on them politically or whatever else. And then you have all this stuff happening, and people are like, well, how could this happen? Because you either don't know who these people are, or they're so concerned with, oh, this tweet or Nancy Pelosi said this, they'll trivialize and blow up the hugest nonsense. But then all these things that are happening, people are like, well, that's weird, I never heard of that before. That's weird, they have a what laboratory? Oh, that's weird, because they spent their whole lives being bombarded with nonsense. And now that they're, people are getting interested in politics, Dr. Fauci, Rand Paul, and all this stuff, they're having these arguments, in Congress. People are like, oh, did you hear this? And did you hear that? And I'm like, well, I mean, welcome to the party. But, the more people look into it, it's like we were talking about earlier on the phone. The more people look into it, the more their brains you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe it's this bad. It's like, well, yes, it is this bad. And the more you look, you should actually get excited and be happy because you're like, you know what? Let's give these people a hard time. If they're playing in labs and releasing and doing all this stuff and trying to gaslight people so you can see it from space, let's actually make them work for this. And then people are coming. There was another. I didn't get to do it today because I was busy. There's the guy, Dr. Shiva. He was mad because just like you and me, we've been saying this for years. Somebody in Congress, Rand Paul, actually plagiarized one of the charts that he put up and then cut off half of it and was like, "Oh yeah, we found this." He's like, "Motherfucker, you found this? That
Well,
was mine." And they literally waited 2 years to even talk about it. So they're slow rolling it with the Twitter and all this stuff. Like they're all in one group trying to just gaslight us. And that's what we're talking here. We're doing the more technical breakdown of exactly where these people work. Remember,
right.
it's the giant
Hey,
circle
Bright.
jerking us to one
Hey,
side.
Bright. Hold on a second. Believe it or not, we have Christopher Ray here, but he's not. He's off camera. I want to introduce him right after I show you this chart. But Chris Ray is here. Can you imagine the FBI
Oh
guy?
my God, he actually had time to come down. Wow,
He
what a
did. He
what a
did. Hold
swell
on a second.
guy. What a swell
Well,
guy.
you know what they're doing? The FBI is buying the geosynchronous systems from or geo maps from a private concerned company that can't generate themselves. But I just want to show this to you real quick, and this is going to be a bridge version. I'm not going to go into deep detail, but you have, in 2015, you have Randy Doherty, the vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the IF, and also the principal on the IF 990 tax form, hand over leadership of the IAF incorporated in Delaware to this communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who's been involved with our quality since 1994. The kicker is that Zhao Jinwu is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services that certified the lab in Wuhan, China, the BioLevel 4 lab.
Yeah.
Right? Not only that, you have the factor that he's mandated by his country of origin, China, communist China, to take our data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You have the factor that ANSI took over complete control over ANAB. They're one company, basically, but separate. You have federal agencies and corporations. Now, let me get into this real quick because I'm going to show the audience this, because we actually have a picture. Where the heck it went? Let's see. I think he's here. We have an actual picture of Zhao Jinwu standing in the lab in 2017 in China.
Yes.
But you know, I gotta say this: ANSI ANAB are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum. So I'm going to ask the audience, like you, now them being underwriters, and while he's standing in the lab, he's not just the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, but he's also the chairman for the International Accreditation Forum that ANSI ANAB are underwriters for. So in essence, by the release of the COVID virus and those people who are trying to sue China, you have to go after ANSI ANAB, would you not, since they are underwriters?
That would be the actual way you could do it, because probably number one, a lot of the underwriter people in offices are here, so you could pull up on their offices like Daryl does when he goes and, people want to protest and they want to do activism. Well, and people like, a lot of people are like, some guy in Florida was like, I'm going to sue China for letting this go. It's like, well, China, what are you going to do? Sue a bunch of trees and animals that are just walking around in China? You go to the underwriter, they're here, and then you can actually, because once people realize that it's like an actual, they take the same energy they have for lawsuits for everything else. Like, oh, this company owns this detergent and it gave me this. And so now I'm going to do that. Do the same thing with this. That'll turn the heat up ridiculously faster. And
the only issue is that the American National Standards Institute has the Department of Justice sitting on their board. And they also are very much embedded in the American Bar Association. So trying to sue China is like trying to sue ANSI ANAB. The thing that really is a kicker with a lot of this stuff is that we discovered several years ago in a technical Chinese magazine in English that, Fauci was inquisitioned by Senator Rand Paul, and Fauci is on NIH. NIH sits on ANSI, so does CDC, Pfizer, FDA, and all the rest of that mess, right? So we pulled this out of a Chinese magazine and technical magazine. As you can see, this is the second workshop in China, right? Not only that, it was from May 17th to 19th, 2017.
People, people in the watching this video, you can pause it and take a picture of this and then start to, look at some of this stuff, because what we're bringing down here is some really good stuff.
If you look at the bullet points, the United States and China were planning a pandemic, an issue. If you read all of this, we're going to continue on. For those people who are saying, where did he get that from? Well, I will say this, right? Let me just get here. This is the actual booklet. I had it blown up. The actual booklet that goes into detail about Wuhan, China, and other items. And for those people who are saying that they don't believe it, well, here's the picture that I took out of it with Zhao Jinwu as the executive of the China National Accreditation Services and the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum in Delaware, which is ANSI ANAB or underwriters for. You have them here. I'd gladly send anybody in your audience this information. Also, we want to bring Christopher Ray out. He happened to come in here. Here's Christopher Ray.
Welcome in, Chris. Yeah,
I want
nice
to tell
to see
you this.
you.
He says at many depositions. In fact, right, He said November 15, 2022, that we must maintain vigilance over China and TikTok because TikTok's in China. You have a lot of congressmen on board about TikTok and how detrimental it is for the United States. And Chris Wray says in many of his depositions that he says the whole of the Chinese society is a threat to the U.S. and that Americans must step up to defend themselves. Well, let me just show you this, Bright. The FBI sat on ANSI, they still do, on their board between 2015 and 21, when ANSI was sitting on the International Accreditation Forum run by the Communist Chinese National. Now, the FBI most recently got hacked again. They've been getting hacked all the time, and it's from affiliations. So when we look at Christopher Wray giving a deposition, he looks like this. But after he gets out of the deposition, he looks like this.
Oh, that's his normal civilian clothes. Yeah, that's what he really that. It's actually a bunch of leprechauns standing on top of each other in a human suit. Yeah.
And I think I think we've given the audience enough data and information right now. I think we ought to bring this to a close. It's up to you.
Yeah, we can close this up and we'll do another video. We'll chop this and then we'll do another video. Why don't you give the audience a link? His channel below. It's just it's Daryl Guberman. He'll give you his information. You can reach out to him and talk, because a lot of people have been reaching out and just been helping their businesses.
Oh, yes, all this stuff. Absolutely. Because a lot of people do not want to hang out with ANSI ANAP. You have a lot of business owners who say this right now. Never forget, one of the business owners says, Daryl, ISO and quality is just a nuisance to me. You got to keep your balls in the air. I said, listen, Paul, you ought to keep your balls in your pants. What are you going to do?
You got to keep them in your pants, huh?
That's it. It's unbelievable. And that's the way they think about it in the aerospace industry, too, with their AS9100 certifications. But that's for another video. Thank you, Bright. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And we will definitely be back. We got a lot more videos planned. It's been a little busy, but I've got a couple videos going here tonight. We're doing a lot tonight. We're hanging out here. Why don't you tell them how they can reach out to you? I'll put his channel. It will be linked below.
You can reach out to me. My phone number, it's always open. It's 203-556-1493. Or you can write me at Daryl, DARYL, @yahoo.com. And I thank you, Bright, for that.
Excellent. Thank you for watching, everybody. Definitely hit that like button. Share this out there, because obviously, there's lots of other people talking about this, but you're not going to go and getting information that's hitting harder and, hitting them harder and hitting faster than we got going on here. We got a lot more videos coming. Definitely subscribe to Daryl Guberman. Subscribe to the Adventurous Guide to the Galaxy, YouTube and Odyssey. And Daryl will be on BitChute and on Rumble. So definitely check us out. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.